What's going on, everyone? I'm just a typical, average American here today to react and learn about Britain's scariest criminals. So today, I want to take a look at this video by Most Amazing Top 10. And this is about some of the worst British criminals of all time. Because, like most Americans, I really don't know anything about British crime. So, I think this is going to be pretty interesting and probably a bit disturbing. So, let's take a look.
Coming in at number 10, Charles Bronson, probably the most notorious British prisoner of all time and a very apt entry to kick off this list.
Oh my god! Is that him? I mean, behind the host, behind the narrator guy. Is that him in the background? He just looks evil. Like, I don't know anything about this guy, but if you were gonna be one of the most notorious British criminals of all time, that's pretty much how I would expect you would look, to be honest.
Bronson is so infamous in the British criminal world that he's even been portrayed on the silver screen by the one and the only Tom Hardy. Born Michael Gordon Peterson on the 6th of December 1952, he later changed his name to Charles Bronson after the famous American actor. While he was fighting in the British underground bare-knuckle boxing scene, Bronson has been referred to in the British press as the most violent prisoner in Britain and has...
What? Who is this guy? What did he do exactly? Now I'm hearing he was part of the British underground bare knuckle boxing. This, you hate to say that like a horrible criminal is like kind of interesting, you know? You don't want to say anything positive about them, but this guy clearly led a very unique, interesting sort of life of crime.
Spent the majority of his life behind bars after initially being sentenced for armed robbery in 1974. Although he's been released several times, Bronson has always ended up back behind bars and was given a discretionary life sentence in 1999. Despite this, in recent years, Charles...
Am I missing something here? I mean, he is... These are supposed to be some of the scariest criminals in British history. And he, just going off looks alone, which, let's be honest, you shouldn't just go off looks. There could be some guy that looks just like this, who's the nicest guy in the world. Just because he has a big, crazy beard and he's bald and has those glasses, doesn't mean doesn't mean everyone who looks like this is a criminal. But I think what I'm trying to say is, what exactly did he do? I feel like we haven't said what exactly he did to go to prison. Besides they said he got into like some fights with the police. He certainly looks scary. That's what I'm trying to say. But what crime did he actually commit?
Charles Bronson has changed his name to Charles Salvador after taking up life as an artist and reportedly turning over a new leaf. He has pleaded his reform on numerous occasions, stating that Charles Bronson died in 2014 and that he leads a new life as Charles Salvador, hoping to be released in 2020.
2020? Well, that was 5 years ago. Was he released? Has he turned over a new leaf? He gave up his life of crime? He changed his name? He wants to be a good guy now? What the heck is going on?
Shipman makes its way onto this list at number 9. He is the type of guy who will make you never trust your doctor again, and here's why. He was a British general practitioner and a serial killer who murdered at least 215 of his patients.
What? Now this is genuinely horrifying. This is nightmare fuel. A doctor? Obviously someone in your life that you trust the most, maybe. They literally have your life in their hands at times. He killed hundreds? Hundreds. Not a couple, not dozens. Hundreds of his patients. See, this... The first guy looked kind of scary, and he, was into boxing, and maybe he was a gang member. That's all very scary, but this is, truly horrifying.
His favorite method of killing his victims was to inject them with a lethal dose of drugs. Originally, he was only convicted of 15 murders, but after an official investigation was done, it was determined that he had killed hundreds of other people between the years of 1975 and 1998. He was convicted.
He did this for 20 years. Oh my God. That is one of the worst things I've ever heard. How is anything going to top this? This is a doctor who injected poison into hundreds of people who trusted him. Oh my God.
In January of 2000, and he was sentenced to life in prison, but he was found hanging in his cell 4 years after his trial. Could he be any more ironic? I bet he killed more than he saved as a doctor. Just so messed up.
Coming in now.
That one really got to me. That's horrifying. Particularly, that it was a doctor. Someone that everybody has in their life and trusts. Oh my God.
At number 8, Ronnie and Reggie Kray. Strangely enough, another set of British criminals that Tom Hardy has played on the silver screen, this time twice. The names Ronnie and Reggie Kray are synonymous with the British underworld and London gangland, and you probably won't find anyone in Britain who hasn't heard of these pair. They were notorious for being the perpetrators of organised crime in the East End of London during the 1950s and 1960s, alongside their gang known originally as The Firm, which led...
Okay. Now I think I understand what this list is. This is not necessarily a list of the most prolific British murderers or serial killers, or this is just straight up the scariest British criminals that you can come up with. Doesn't even really matter what the severity of their crime was. It's just the scariest dudes you can imagine.
Them to be involved in such nefarious activities as murder, armed robbery, hijacking, arson, protection racketeering, and countless assaults. The Kray twins were born on the 24th of October 1933, just 10 minutes apart, to parents Charles David Kray and Violet Annie Lee.
No way. This is like something you'd see in a movie. They are gangster twins. And this is real, though.
Lived a life of such prolific notoriety that they were cemented into British culture as two of the most dangerous brothers to have ever lived.
Fred and Rose West hacked their way onto number 7 on our list. They were a married couple who abducted, tortured, sexually abused, and murdered women over a period of 20 years. Their killing spree also included some of their own children. Their house on Cromwell Street contained an awful secret. Their basement was set up as a torture chamber and a graveyard.
Okay, never mind. I was starting to think maybe this is just really intimidating, gangster type people, or no, this is just a huge variety of British criminals ranging from all sorts of crimes. This is one of those this is just disturbing on a different level than scary gangsters who will punch you in the face or who dealt drugs or whatever they did. Capturing and torturing and abusing women in their basement. I thought these types of criminals only existed in the United States, because the United States, we've certainly had our fair share of serial killers who are really sick and twisted like this.
Was also equipped with bondage and torture devices, and they had the ability to hang their victims from the wall and ceiling.
And let's not skip over the fact that this is a husband and wife. This is what they bond over. This is how they keep their marriage together. joking aside, that's really twisted.
Together, they might have killed around 30 women, but they were only charged with 12 murders. Fred West committed suicide before his trial started, and West is currently serving a life sentence without the possibility of parole.
Next
Good.
up at number
Good.
6, Peter Sutcliffe. Also known as the Yorkshire Ripper, Peter Sutcliffe terrorised the British nation between 1975 and 1980, horrifying the public with the very specific conditions that his crimes contained. In 1981, he was convicted of murdering 13 women and suspected of the attempted murder of 7 more. Sutcliffe, who lived in the Yorkshire area of Leeds and Bradford, was believed to regularly use the services of prostitutes and claimed that the voice of God had sent him on a mission to kill these women. The nation
Oh, that's lovely. That's lovely, isn't it? I'm sure that's exactly what God wanted you to do.
was shocked when his modus operandi would later change, and he began killing women who weren't prostitutes, which inevitably sent the Yorkshire public into a panic. He was initially arrested for driving with false number plates when police questioned him about the killings on a chance encounter, and he confessed to being...
That is so crazy how sometimes some of these people are caught. This isn't the first time I've heard of a criminal, a very prolific criminal, infamous, who's gotten away with it up until then, who's just they're just randomly pulled over for speeding or something, and then they just get caught.
The perpetrator. Sutcliffe would later plead insanity, but his claim was later rejected, and he was sentenced to life imprisonment, where he remains to this day.
Good.
Next up on this creepy list, and at number 5, we have Amelia Dyer. She was originally trained as a nurse, but she eventually switched her career path and decided to take a stab at baby farming. This was a practice of adopting unwanted babies in exchange for money. She would prey on mothers who couldn't afford to keep their babies, so she would offer to give them a better life. But
What? Is this what? We haven't even gotten into what she's done, and I can already tell where this is going. I've just never... What is baby farming? I've never even heard that term before. That sounds weird, but I guess in this day, that was a thing. Taking care of babies, in a farm, because there's a lot of them, and you're caring for a lot of them in bulk, and... Okay, so just accepting that was a thing, sure. It's like an orphanage, basically. And then, what did she do?
instead, she pocketed the money and strangled the baby to death with tape and dumped their bodies in the River Tame. She was able to get away with these horrific murders for over 30 years until she was caught and hung for her crimes.
Okay. We've heard some pretty horrifying things so far in this video. I actually wasn't even prepared for how sick and twisted this was gonna be. This is arguably this is the worst. Just because it's innocent babies, children, killing them, strangling them, whatever, for money. I don't know. It's hard to even come up with something more despicable than that.
But she managed to murder at least 400 babies during her murdering spree in the 1800s. Okay, biting his way onto this list.
What was her name? Amelia Dyer? That's gonna haunt me for a while. That's unbelievable. I've never heard of anything like that. That's horrific.
At number 4, we have Stephen Griffiths. He is notoriously known as the crossbow cannibal, and his story almost sounds too crazy to be real.
This is, okay. I gotta strap in here. I gotta lock in. This is just getting more crazy as the video goes on, which I guess makes sense. The crossbow cannibal killer. What can you do except chuckle? What?
But trust me, it is. His favorite pastime included murdering women with a crossbow and then eating their body parts. He actually turned his bathroom into a slaughterhouse where he would dismember his victims in the bathtub with power tools, and then he would start to eat his favorite body parts, in which I don't know what they are, and I'm just not going to question it. So this guy actually took their body parts and stored them in the fridge until he got hungry. And
Oh my god. Oh my, it's pretty freaking twisted what humans are capable of. I've never heard of anything like this. There's, I don't know if it's a British thing or if just, it's obviously not. Like, there's despicable, crazy people everywhere in the world. But it just so happens, this list of British criminals, like, I've never heard of crimes like quite like this.
And then he would start cooking them in the oven. He was actually diagnosed as a very violent psychopath at the age of 17 years old, but despite all of these warning signs and red flags, he managed to kill 3 women, and now he's currently serving a life sentence without the possibility of parole.
The only saving grace here is that most of these killers were caught and are either dead or currently serving life in prison, which is good. Like, thank God for that.
At number 3, Dennis Nilsen. And we're about to head down the hole of one of the most gruesome serial killers in British history.
This guy? You can never tell, can you? You can never tell from just looking at somebody. This guy is one of the most despicable serial killers in British history. This guy here. Okay, he looks like he works at the library.
Dennis Nilsen, a Scottish serial killer and necrophile who murdered at least 12 young men, more than likely more, in a series of brutal and deranged killings committed between 1978 and 1983, all of which took place at several of his residences in London, England. Nilsen's modus operandi often targeted young, homeless, homosexual men, which he lured to his 2 North London addresses through guile and deception.
This reminds me a lot of the American Jeffrey Dahmer, if you've ever learned about him. This actually, very, very similar.
Often plying them with alcohol and then murdering them by strangulation. He kept the bodies beneath his floorboards, sometimes for periods as long as 8 months, and would then observe the bodies in a strange, twisted ritual. He would dispose of the remains after dissecting them by either burning them on a bonfire or flushing them down a toilet. His crimes were discovered when a plumber eventually discovered the remains of bones and flesh blocking the pipes of his shared flat, and he was sentenced to life in prison, where he died in 2018 at the age of 72.
And how do we...
Oh my God. Crazy what people do. And he was caught by the plumber.
do a list like this and not talk about this next guy? Well, Jack the Ripper brings us to number 2.
Jack the Ripper. Most Americans have heard of him. I've heard of Jack the Ripper, so he's that famous. Maybe it's just the name. I gotta admit, I don't know what exactly he did, though, but I know this name.
Jack the Ripper is one of England's and the world's most infamous murderers because he was never captured and his identity remains unknown. He terrorized the Whitechapel district of London in 1888, where he brutally murdered and mutilated at least 5 prostitutes. In each of his murders, the victims' throats would be slashed and the body would be severely mutilated, which indicated that he had some kind of knowledge about the human anatomy. Despite
It sounds like he's famous because this happened a long time ago, and he was never caught. And this was a very, very specific part of London, I think?
several investigations, the police had hundreds of suspects, but they weren't able to definitely arrest anyone. So even till this day, Jack the Ripper's identity and motive remains to be one of the biggest mysteries.
It's kind of sad that... honestly, hearing what Jack the Ripper did, like cutting their throats, that's not even like considered that grotesque by today's standards. You know, just listening to some of these people, doctors who poisoned their hundreds of patients, or the married couple that kidnapped women, took them to their torture dungeon. Like, it makes Jack the Ripper sound kind of like boring almost. It's kind of crazy.
All right, question for this guy right here, Jack the... What's your last name?
Finch.
Finch. Okay. Do you know the anatomy?
It's not the Ripper.
No. Do you know how good are you with human anatomy?
Very poor.
Okay, good. So you're not Jack the Ripper.
I'm glad I'm not trying. And to finally end this gruesome list, we have one of Britain's first recorded female serial killers, Mary Ann Cotton. No.
Oh. I foolishly assumed that this list was going to be men. But, you know, it's all just human beings. Women, men, we're all capable of this, I guess. Mary Ann Cotton. She already has kind of like a creepy name.
As the Black Widow, Cotton is reported to have murdered around 21 people, including 3 of her own husbands, apparently in order to collect on their insurance policies, which she would use to establish a new life. And even more horrifically, she was responsible for the death of 11 of her 13 children.
What? What? That's sick. There's something about being killed by your doctor or by your own mother, someone you trust, that's especially sick. Why would she kill all her children? Like 11 of 13. What did the other 2 do? Were they like on their best behavior or something? And 3 of her husbands? Why? Who would marry her after the second husband? For God's sake.
Mary Ann Robson on the 31st of October 1832, yes, that is Halloween, in County Durham, England. Cotton's modus operandi was to use arsenic poisoning, learned from her time as a nurse, that would slowly cause gastric pain in her victims and ensure a rapid decline of health. Now, this process was mostly undetectable until it appeared that almost everyone Mary Ann Cotton knew started to die around.
Seriously, like, how long did it take for people to catch on? How many of her kids had to die in the same way from arsenic poisoning? Or how many husbands had to die before people caught on?
Around her, it kind of raised a few red flags. She was trialed and sentenced to death by hanging on the 24th of March, 1873, where she died on the gallows, not by her neck breaking, but by strangulation caused by the rope being rigged too short. Many believe that this action was deliberate. Gnarly stuff, gnarly video.
All right, so
Whoa. Jeez. Well, that was disturbing, to say the least. I really had no idea. Britain had genuinely some of the most disturbing, scariest criminals I've ever heard of. And there's a lot of stories and criminals and serial killers in American history, but the British history of criminals is its own unique, disturbing. It's weird because as humans, we're oddly like drawn and interested in this madness, even though it's despicable and disgusting. But it was certainly interesting and scarring. So anyway, if you enjoyed this, feel free to give this video a like or leave a comment with your thoughts on any of these British criminals. And if you're interested in more videos like this, me reacting to British things I've never seen before, feel free to subscribe for more. And until then, thanks for watching, and see you next time.